Thanks for downloading a 3CR podcast. 3CR is an independent community radio station based in Melbourne, Australia. We need your financial support to keep going. Go to www.3cr.org.au for more information and to donate online. Now stay tuned for your 3CR podcast.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Lost in Science, or should I say ho ho ho, and welcome to another episode of Lost in Science. Look, it is that time of the year when we get all festy and celebratory, and I can hear the jingle bells of science on the wind. And what have the little, I don't know, I'm going with this metaphor, but what have the little elves brought in today? Who are the elves in this room? I am not enjoying this where this has gone. Hello, Linden and Kat and Claire.
Ho, ho, ho.
Thank you. Thank you for rescuing me. We do have some thematic seasonal science for you, for your listening pleasure to unwrap at your leisure. Linden, what have you got underneath the tree?
Well, is it underneath the tree or is it up among with the stars? I'm thinking about what would Santa see if he was up there when he gets up there for Christmas? What's he going to look at when he's looking down? A little bit of science around what we can see from Santa's viewpoint when him and all those reindeer are doing their impressive journey around on Christmas Eve. What can they see? And what can that tell us, importantly, about global rivers? Which I know is a question that Santa is often asking himself, thinking about the hydrology of the planet as well as how to deliver all those toys to girls and boys.
So looking at the world through a Santa's eye view as opposed to a bird's eye view?
Yeah, it's because it's a bit higher. Santa's got to get a bit higher to be able to go all of the places that he needs to go. And from there, you can really get some detailed information. So that's what I wanted to be talking about. Look, it's not the shortest bow between science and Christmas, but I think that there's still a connection to be drawn there.
Look, Santa does have to visit a lot of houses, a lot of population centres, which are often around rivers. So I'm sure it is really interesting for his benefit. But I'm curious, it is an incredible journey that Santa goes on. What do you know about that, Kat?
Well, it was a really nice segue, Chris, because how many houses does Santa actually need to visit? I'm going to get lost in a little bit of maths here and think about the logistics of Santa coming to everyone's house on the planet to deliver presents, and how many will he actually have to visit, and where are they all?
Surely not everyone is nice. We could cut out a few naughty people.
Yeah, but he'd have to deliver the coal too.
Yes.
True. Well, that sounds like an interesting fossil fueled examination as well. So, look, let us get on with the festive show.
And welcome back. You are listening to Lost in Science, and it's the special festive edition where we're trying to figure out how we can connect the science with the special power of this time of year. Now, I told you before that the science that I wanted to talk about was looking at the world. Santa obviously travels around the whole planet on Christmas Eve, delivering lots of presents, which Kat is going to talk about a bit later, the logistics and the mathematics behind that. But I was thinking about what Santa can see when he's up there, right? What sort of a view does he get? We could talk about how high he has to travel, but for the sake of this story, let's imagine that he travels about 700 kilometres above the surface of the Earth, which is around about the same height as many satellites. There are many, many satellites that circle the globe. I don't actually know the number. I feel like somebody here knows. Chris, do you know?
No. I'm so interesting though. It is like the 700 figure came from the satellites. You didn't it's not a quiz. You worked out where Santa was, and that's how you got the satellite number.
No, the number came from the satellites.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
But as a fun fact, we have hit 10,000 active satellites in low Earth orbit.
Wow.
Jeez.
Is 700 kilometres low Earth orbit?
Yeah, that's considered still low Earth orbit. The International Space Station is 400 kilometers above the Earth. And then, yeah, you're kind of thinking about the ones hugging the Earth, because then the GPS satellites, they're 20,000 kilometers above Earth. So, yeah, 700 is still considered low.
Wow. Well, in that case, Santa's probably traveling even lower than that, because otherwise he would be ducking and weaving and dodging. And the reindeer would be getting pretty tired if they had to move around. What did you say? 10,000 satellites.
Yeah.
Jeez,
and they're just the active ones.
Not all the space junk ones.
Yep.
Wow, that's impressive. Okay, well then, let's imagine Santa's a little bit closer to the ground. He could still see a lot, right? And if he used some of the binoculars or the telescopes that he was gifting to all those wonderful children, he could zoom in and he could have a look at what was going on the Earth's surface. Now, we do this for lots of different types of science. You can do it in lots of different bands as well, whether you're looking at, air composition, whether you're looking at long-wave radiation, short-wave radiation, the visible light spectrum, lots of different things. But I think Santa's probably just going to go with your standard visible light, what you can see. And maybe what he'd be looking at is river systems, right? Now, another question with another number that I do have the answer to. How many rivers do you think exist on planet Earth? How many rivers do you think there are?
How many rivers? Oh, that is such a good question. Would it be in the tens of thousands?
Ooh, good.
I was going to go
Good guess.
100,000. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Kat, what's your number?
Or do I just keep going higher? Do I go in the millions? But no, I would say probably in the hundreds of thousands.
Hundreds and thousands. I mean, I think it depends on how you define your river, but for the sake of this study, which was published in Science just this week by 2 American engineers, they looked at almost 2.7 million rivers.
Oh, wow.
Whoa!
Yeah, it's actually really hard to define the number of rivers that exist. Some people say that there's 3 million rivers, but this study looked at, it was 2.9 million rivers, because they didn't just want to understand how much water was flowing out of a river. You know that we need to understand that for the hydrological cycle, to understand where our water is going and how those water systems are changing as our weather systems change and as snow melt changes and all those things. They wanted to understand the actual shape of a whole river. Now imagine that Santa is stopping off in Australia to have a lovely Australian summertime break after he's done all that work. Maybe he'd be going to the high country, the headlands of, or the headwaters of a river. Think about that environment. Think about the sort of landscape there. It's rocky boulders, it's different types. It's a very distinct ecosystem, plants and animals, compared to the mouth of a river. Yeah? You've got Santa there. He's wearing his budgie smugglers. He's wearing his thongs. He's still got his red hat on for some unexplained reason. But the ecosystem there is very different. The sediment is much finer. The plants and animals are very different. And these researchers wanted to understand how those structures were changing, to try to figure out what was going on over the whole lifetime of a river, not just how much water was coming out of it. So they looked at these satellite information. They combined satellite information with a model, a hydrological model, and they calculated the flow at different states of different rivers every day from 1984 to 2018, so 35 years worth of data every single day, how much water flow was coming out and how that was happening along each of those rivers, from tiny little streams all the way to your big, Amazon, Nile type beast rivers. And they did calculate that there were about 204 Sydney harbours coming out of our global rivers every day. Sydney harbs, Did you know that? That's like an official metric in Australian hydrology, a Sydney harb. That's
how much is a Sydney harbour though, in SI units?
Yeah, it is. Well, okay, so there's 102 cubic kilometres of water that's coming out of the rivers every day, and that's 204 Sydney harbours. So what does that equal? A bit.
A fair bit. A hecton.
Yeah, the other accepted measurement of unit of measure is Olympic swimming pools, but that's too small for this purpose.
It's too small for this purpose. That's right. Yeah. And I got quite distracted around. Wow, Sydney harbs is that's the short-term word for it. Anyway, so there's lots of water that's flowing out of these rivers, but the shape is changing. So what these researchers found was that up towards the headwaters, those rivers are actually getting wider and they're getting bigger, and there's more increased flow in that area compared to downstream. So 17% of the upstream rivers were getting wider and only 10% were getting narrower, compared to a 44% decrease in the width of rivers further towards the mouth of the rivers. So the closer up to where the rivers are beginning, they're getting wider, which has big implications not only for the ecosystems there, but also for flooding. You know, as you said, Chris, before, lots of urban areas are on rivers, they're on river systems, and if they're kind of up towards where those rivers are starting, because this isn't just big rivers, it's streams and creeks and those kinds of things. And if they're flooding more often, which is what this study suggests, as well as lots of other studies, then that's got big implications for planning and for managing water. I just found this study really fascinating in terms of how many numbers were required to do this analysis, how tricky it is to count the number of rivers and to study how they're changing their shape every single day, and also kind of what that looks like in terms of what could be doing it. Obviously, you're thinking, all right, well, climate change, that makes sense. We're getting increased rainfall and precipitation in different parts of the world, and snow is melting more and faster and earlier. But also humans are changing the way that rivers are being used. These guys didn't find a very strong correlation with just human changes. So it was the combination of multiple factors that was causing the results that they found, which, I don't know, makes sense and is in keeping with, river systems are complicated, and how river systems are changing are also complicated. But I don't know, it was an interesting analysis for me. Yeah, Chris.
Yeah, do you think, is there a way of comparing it to, I suppose, how river systems would evolve without human activity? Because surely, we're in a dynamic planet, things are going to be changing and evolving all the time. Is there a natural kind of life cycle of a river or something that would involve certain changes anyway?
Yeah, you'd think so, wouldn't you? And these guys, they kind of cross-referenced the analysis that they did with any land use data that they had to try to see if there was a relationship. Santa doesn't have that high quality data in his sleigh. Unfortunately, it's not as high resolution as these satellite observations, but I can imagine that you would be able to get a computer model that would show you this is what the river was going to do if everything else stayed the same. Yeah, definitely. But they didn't go into too much detail about that in the study. Yeah, I guess you could also think about sediment flow. If you've got changes in the river system, then you're going to get a big change in how different sediments of different weights and different densities kind of move through the system, and that's going to change how the river flows. There'd be a lot of models that would do that, but from a global scale, yeah. Yeah,
I guess kind of interested in that idea of young rivers versus old rivers, and how they change over time, and thinking what that must be like. Basically, I'm just thinking about baby rivers is what I'm thinking.
Oh a little baby river, but I imagine they'd change on a slower scale if there wasn't any external forces. This is 35 years, and they're seeing some of these really big changes. It's probably worth noting as well that when you're looking at baby rivers, there's hundreds and thousands of them, whereas then you think of your big papa rivers. There's not that many really around the planet. There's enough to do some science with, but there's not as many, and so changes in that smaller population can look more impressive from a statistical point of view, I suppose. So, as Santa's looking around for all the Christmas lights as well, looking at the beautiful, hopefully glittering rivers and creeks that are around the place.
Science. The Final Frontier. These are the voyages of Lost in Science, our ongoing mission to explain strange new words, to seek out new science and new explanations, to boldly go where no radio has gone before.
listening to Lost in Science, and I'm going to get a little bit lost and stuck into some mathematics as I work out how many houses does Santa have to visit each year.
Oh, wow.
Chris, you already pointed out, like, well, not everyone makes it to the nice list, but you know, the question is, does he still visit the naughty list? And so naughty versus nice, that's pretty hard to enumerate, but I'm going to try my best at working out how many children he goes to visit.
Right.
But I guess that's the thing, right? Who counts when it comes to a kid in terms of Santa delivering presents? So it's certainly, you know, there doesn't really seem to be an upper age limit in the Santa child gift pipeline, because, you know, people will filter out. But we don't really know how that's determined, and is belief in Santa a prerequisite for receiving the gift?
I think there's is there a 2 or 3 year grace period when maybe belief has waned but love of presents remains?
Yeah.
And Santa's a very kind and benevolent fellow.
Yeah, so, like, you know, is it 10-ish? Is it 18? Like, probably not as high as 18. But according to UNICEF, there are an estimated 2.4 billion children in the world under the age of 18. Now, Santa, you are probably familiar with this fact, is somewhat derived from St. Nicholas in the Catholic canon. So, you know, Christmas is based on Christian faith, but Santa isn't necessarily limiting his generosity to those of a certain religion, because there are certainly thousands of children in Australia alone who, you know, don't necessarily adhere to Christian traditions, but, you know, nonetheless, they expect a present from Santa.
Oh, he must get annoyed as, like, the tradition spreads. Yeah. And, you know.
More children.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's actually some interesting data that comes from the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, because, of course, they collect demographic and cultural data detailing nearly every country in the world.
For Santa. It's for Santa, though.
Just for Santa, yeah.
They have a list of who's naughty and who's nice, but they define it in their own terms.
I think they've been on Santa's case for a long time.
Yeah.
They've been playing the long game with Santa, the CIA.
Yeah.
Are we making a movie? This sounds like I would watch this film.
Coming to a cinema near you.
They know he has access to a lot of hydrological data. I mean...
We need you for the river statistics, Santa.
Yeah.
Get over here.
So, in terms of the statistics that we have, we can work out the national population by age, and we can work out the composition of a country's religious identity. So, like, you know, how many people in a certain country are going to have certain beliefs. And although it's not actually easy, because they kind of say Christianity, right? But Christianity is blended with other belief systems in some places. And, like, the question is, you know, if it's a blend of Christianity and traditional knowledge, which it is in some cases, like, does that include room for Santa? Who knows? And then some Christian denominations, like Jehovah's Witnesses, for example, they don't celebrate Christmas at all. And then Eastern Orthodox Christians, they celebrate Christmas in January. So it's kind of a little bit all over the place. But if you kind of take a lot of this data and work out, you know, who kind of loosely falls into the I'm expecting Santa to come, it kind of is around 536.8 million kids who expect presents, plus an additional 13 to 14 million who might fall in a maybe category. Like, you know, the CIA doesn't exactly say these people believe in Santa and these people don't. So you kind of have to skirt around by beliefs. Thankfully, though, he doesn't actually have to visit, you know, around 537 million separate houses, because some children live in the same household. So, you know, in that case, it's 2 birds, 1 stone, or sometimes more birds, 1 stone.
If all the birds in a house are getting 1 stone for Christmas, that would be a sad Christmas for all those little birds.
As long as it's not stone as in coal.
Oh, that's right.
So the UN actually compiles information on the number of people per household in different countries, and in some cases even actually specifies the number of people younger than 15 in one household. So that actually kind of helps you work out how many children are living in different households. And this gives us 396 million households that Santa has to visit, with, another 8.7 million in the maybes.
It's getting down. It's getting down, the number, but it's still a lot.
It's going
still
down.
a lot.
Yeah.
And in terms of where they all live, like, Santa might not have to make so many stops in some countries. So there are certain countries where it's pretty blank in terms of, like, if Santa had to put pins on where he was going to visit, because a lot of children wouldn't believe in this kind of thing. And they don't celebrate Christmas. But the country with the combo of the largest population and highest density of Christians is the US. So that would be where the largest number of children that Santa might be expected to visit is, with nearly 42 million children in total. So that's a lot of kids that you have to visit in America.
How many time zones are there in America?
I don't know off the top of my head, but several.
Does that work in Santa's favor, I suppose?
It kind of does, yes. If we get time, I was going to talk about the fact that, we talk about the Santa having to deliver on Christmas Eve, but because of different time zones, that actually gives him over 30 hours to deliver presents around the world.
That's
he's
heaps of time.
He's going up and down, north and south.
Yeah.
Time.
So he would have to go like zoop, zoop, up, down, up, down, up, down.
Oh, that's not efficient. He needs to harness the jet streams. Maybe he could be kind of spinning up and then spinning down around the planet. Okay.
Maybe he is trying to work out, like, where can I just put them in the rivers and they'll just flow down to all the children.
Come on, children, let's go down to the river and get your presents. Floating down the stream, yeah.
Not in the northern hemisphere if the rivers are frozen.
True. Okay, that makes it hard. The country that's actually easiest for Santa is, in terms of where he would actually visit as well, is Monaco. Kind of makes sense. It's pretty small. And there are only about 3,100 kids that he'd need to visit, and they're all relatively close together. The density of children relative to the country's total area is lowest in Greenland, but they're all really, really close together in Monaco. And can you imagine in Australia, like, we're all congregated around the edges, so we make it a little bit difficult. Of course, there'd be some children he visits in the middle, but it's pretty hard. But when is he going to be doing all of this? As I pointed out, Santa delivers presents on the night of Christmas Eve, or if you're really generous, you can give him the early hours of Christmas morning too. But also, he does it when it's dark. So it's not just that he's delivering it on the 24th of December, he's also delivering it in the dark. And up north, that's not a problem. Because of the Earth's tilt, there are actually different amounts of daytime and nighttime that you experience, depending on where you are on the world. And at the North Pole, it's constantly dark in wintertime. So that's pretty easy for him to come and go. But in the Southern Hemisphere, we've got a lot of daytime, especially closer to the Southern Pole. So that makes his job a little bit harder. If you think about us, we will have just passed the summer solstice, the longest daytime and the shortest night of the year. So we've got a lot of daytime and not much darkness for him to be able to do his little trek.
So he really earns that cookie and the beer.
He really does.
From us, doesn't he? Like, we make him travel along. We've got different time zones, but the nights are the shortest as they're going to get, and he's got to travel all the way around. He can't just pop them in the one little spot like in Monaco. I'd never thought of that before. Poor guy.
Yeah, and he's coming down from 700 kilometres up.
Yeah, exactly. He's got to go through the Earth's atmosphere, which is, famously about 10 kilometres high here. So he's got to, re-equilibrate his ears and all those kinds of things.
Yeah. Not to mention all the chimneys in Australia, most of them are boarded up. I mean, we don't really use chimneys anymore, so it's hard for him to get into the chimney as well.
Yeah, he has to fiddle with, like, the lockpicks and stuff.
Yeah,
to get into everyone's houses now. So yeah, he does that. It kind of makes sense for him to start as far east as possible and then work his way heading west to remain under the cover of darkness as Earth rotates in relation to the sun. And yeah, there's a long journey for Santa as he visits like all of these million kids. Yeah, and as you say, Linden, you know, really does earn the cookies. He'd have to travel, like, if you don't even think about going down into different people's houses, delivering a present, eating, drinking, and then going up again, like, it's microseconds at each house to do it all. So he's a wonder.
I was going to say, is it possible, like, as an explanation, that there's more than one Santa? Like, there's actually...
Mrs. Claus helps out.
Yeah. I'm starting to doubt this whole Santa thing is what I'm saying.
I mean, yeah. We maybe
Only now.
Maybe next year we should think about Santa as part of the multiverse.
Right.
Some sort of multiverse of Santa.
So not only is he ducking in and out below the atmosphere and whatever, like ducking in and out of this universe, this.
Yeah, exactly.
It did occur to me that you're saying there is more dark hours in the northern hemisphere than in the southern hemisphere, but there's also a more higher Santa receiving population in the northern hemisphere, so that does work in his favour as well. Yeah,
it does. It does.
I just want to know, like, who is in the lab? Who's in Santa's lab? Who's in the logistics office? How many PhD elves are there running these numbers, organising these stats, organising the route, maximising efficiency? Like, geez, that'd be a tough job, but satisfying, wouldn't it? Be like Houston, you know, the control room.
Oh, it's constantly dark. There's nothing else to do.
That's true. That's true. Better run some numbers and try to maximise the route. Yeah, that would be a fun hobby, but also very rewarding.
So go Santa, and hopefully he visits you.
Yes. No wonder he has to take a whole year off after it. I mean, I tell you what. And that's it for another episode of Lost in Science. Lost in Science is recorded for 3CR in Melbourne on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and it airs across Australia on the Community Radio Network with the support of the Community Broadcasting Foundation. We would love you to get in touch with us. You can email us at lostinsci@gmail.com, or you can find us on Facebook, we're Lost in Science on 3CR, or on Twitter, where we're at Lost in Science 1. You can find us on your favourite podcast app, where if you get the chance, please give us a good rating and review, as that will raise us up in the search rankings so other people can find the science. Or you can listen to us however you listen to us now, where at the same time every week, Claire, Stu and Chris get
Lost in Science!
Thanks for listening to a 3CR podcast. 3CR is an independent community radio station based in Melbourne, Australia. We need your financial support to keep going. Go to www.3cr.org.au for more information and to donate online.